Okay, welcome back to ufosaboveus. All right, today is May 21st, and we're going to look at another orb video. Okay, so it all started out with this bird you see on this frame here at the top, and of course that little circular orb that you see down at the bottom. Now in this picture, the bird's right here at the edge of the clouds, and as I zoom in, you can see both the orb there, just a circular orb, and then this interesting little white raptor here. And look at the feathers on the head there. It almost looks like a miniature bald eagle, doesn't it? So that's what started out this video. Isn't that beautiful thing? A little raptor soaring by my house. And of course, there's the orb. The interesting thing about this white orb is it started off as a single globe, like I see so many other times. But then over time, there's a better shot of the bird, by the way. Isn't that a beautiful thing? I don't want to distract us, but man, I love taking pictures of raptors. That is a beautiful bird. I think it's a Mississippi kite is what they call that one. And I've never seen one, so I enjoyed that. But, you know, bird watching aside, as soon as I saw the orb, when I noticed that this orb split into two pinpoint light sources, kind of was dividing into two, at that point I'm done with the bird and I'm focusing on the object, whatever this is. So you're going to see a series of about 10 photographs shot in the span of maybe 3 or 4 seconds. I'm using a burst mode with my camera. I think I'm shooting at 5 frames a second, which isn't the fastest it'll go, but it's set to a reasonable amount of speed. And here's the image where it starts. Look how it starts splitting into two pinpoint light sources. So it goes from a single globe and then kind of divides into these two little pinpoint lights with the smoky, misty looking stuff around them. So again, there was the first image. And from that, it starts being just focusing on these close-ups of the orb itself. So here's the first one. Now, these little donut-looking things, and I've photographed these before, but there's the light source, and there's those little circles. Here's some more circles on this side, right by the light source again. So you got a lot of unusual characteristics to this, whatever this thing is that I'm photographing. And I've seen it. By the way, I knew I was going to see these orbs before I stepped outside. And the more I do this, the more it's getting to that point where there's just a lot of stuff going on. Not only did I photograph this one with all these interesting objects on it, but I photographed more orbs. So we'll look at this one today. Look at that one. The light source there. Yeah, that's really interesting to me. So we'll look at a lot of these pictures, but there's another series of photographs I took of a vulture. And that vulture had a dark colored orb that had glowing red disc on either side of it. Not disc like a saucer, but like flat disc, like a coin looking on an edge. So as we look at this next photograph, every one of these is about 2/10 of a second apart, and yet they look totally different, don't they? So I don't know what this orb is, but I don't understand how if it were just a spacecraft, how could it change shape and change it so quickly and look so different? Which makes me almost think this may be some kind of a living thing that we don't understand. Now, I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but I've just observed these so many times, and it just gets more and more to the point where I start thinking maybe this is just some kind of a creature we don't understand. Although this one doesn't look much like a creature. Look at that. Almost looks like a sheet of metal bent into an arc with 2 half globes on it. Kind of got a little tail right there on that one side, so that's unusual. But this light source here beside it, you've got that kind of purplish hinted globe, almost a third little miniature orb. So look at that right there, the tip of that light source. So that one looks more craft-like to me. But then you just, 2/10 of a second later, we go to the next photograph, and it starts changing again, doesn't it? You can still see that little globe in the center of the 2 lights here, but it looks different. You don't see that arc shape near as much. So it seems like this is just a morphing object. But the bottom line is, I see them so often around birds and around airplanes. And I don't understand what the connection is. That one's kind of interesting there. You've got some I don't know what that is. It looks like it ties into that dark orb right there, though. And then you got this tail coming off the other end. Okay, so here's an interesting one. I studied this one in some detail, and I'm not going to blow it up as large as I did for myself, but I almost see some images in this one. And so I would just challenge you to look, if you're interested and you're open-minded, look at that one carefully and see if you see any images in there. And you don't have to put it in the comments, because I know a lot of people say, you know what, I'm not comfortable talking about that, and I'm kind of not either on some of these things, but I clearly see stuff in that orb. And I'll just leave it at that. All right, so this next one, there's the light sources. This one's interesting because it kind of looks like a tube to me. You know, if you're a fan of Star Trek, it kind of reminds me of one of the engines on the Enterprise. This other one, not as much, because it's got like a square right past the light source there. And then there's that central, whatever it is. That one looks craft-like to me. What about y'all? That one kind of looked more craft-like than being-like. Kind of does to me. Interesting, though. I like that one. I didn't study that one in a lot of detail. I might go back and do that now. Okay, so this next one, kind of, 0.2 of a second later, and it's kind of losing that cylinder shape. You still see the light source, of course, but it looks different, doesn't it? You got almost like a little miniature orb right there. And then on this right side, looking at it, looks like there's some kind of a dashed metal bar or something connecting those two there. That one's interesting too, but different, and they're all different for some reason. So let's keep going. We'll kind of finish this up. I don't like these going over 10 minutes, so I try to stay fairly on track with these. There's that one almost looks it looks more smoky. This looks more being-like than structure-like to me. Almost looks like flames with little smoke coming off the back of them. This one's interesting because it's got that, look at that line right there. That looks like piping to me. That one looks very structure-like to me, like pipe work connecting these things. Look at all those hash marks and X's and tubes. That one's very, very structure-like to me, like it could be a craft. But again, it's just 0.2 of a second apart. So how does something change? Yeah, that's interesting there. I kind of see something there. So I like that picture too. What about y'all? That's a pretty good one. Now, this next one, that's one of the light sources look weird there, the one on the bottom. Okay, I don't see a lot more about that, but it's kind of almost triangular in shape instead of oval or roundish. I just don't know what that light source is. Like a half dome, half light source there for some reason. Okay, another interesting one. So I guess it's time to wrap up. So why do these things follow birds? And what are these things? I don't know any of those answers, but this is Matt at UFOs Above Us, reminding all of us, hey, keep watching the skies. The answers we're looking for are up there.